Dan Mazur, co-author and artist of Will Eisner, a comics biography from NBM Publishing. Well, I came to be connected to do this book through my writing partner, Steve Weiner, who could not be here today. Steve is a public librarian and also a comics historian. He was instrumental in bringing comics to public libraries, and in that profession he came to know Will Eisner. Will Eisner was one of the champions of the graphic novel and also a champion of getting comics and graphic novels into libraries. So Steve came to know Will Eisner. Eisner passed away about 20 years ago now, and then Steve had the idea of doing this graphic novel biography of him and asked me to collaborate. Will Eisner, I was familiar with his work. I was familiar with the spirit since I was a teen. So his really great comic art style of storytelling and framing and composition and lighting was always important to me. I didn't know that much about his life until I started researching this book. One of the things that was most interesting was how involved he was in the early days of comic books. He created one of the first comic book studios. He kind of invented the assembly line operation of making comic books, where one person writes, one person pencils, one person inks. That pretty much started with the Eisner shop. But then I think the other great thing about him, why his life was such a great story, is how he had a vision for comics. He was talking about comics as an art form within a few years of the creation of the comic book, when nobody else in the world thought of them that way. And he persisted with it, and he never gave up, and he made his first graphic novel when he was over 60 years old, and basically started a whole new phase of his career. And drew...
Excuse me, but Contract for God came out when he was 60?
He was 60 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And so he kind of reinvented comics and reinvented himself at the same time, and ended up writing and drawing graphic novels for 20 more years after that, and did like more than 20 more graphic novels at an age when most people would have been retiring.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Will Eisner is one of the pioneers of American comic books and graphic novels. While he was never associated with any of the famous characters like Superman or Batman, he created a comic strip in the 40s and 50s called The Spirit, which was stylistically very influential on a whole generation of comic book artists. And then in the 1970s, he wrote and drew one of the first graphic novels called A Contract with God. And he was one of the great promoters of the form graphic novel. Before any bookstore or library had a graphic novel section, Will Eisner was pushing for it. And that's why they have named the industry comic book awards the Eisner Awards after him.
So folks if they don't know The Spirit, they at least have heard of that.
They at least
the
have
Eisner
heard of that.
Awards.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
And you should look into The Spirit if you like comics. No, it doesn't surprise me or bother me particularly. I think that's the way it is in all fields. You know, the great pioneers, they don't get forgotten, but the new generations don't grow up knowing them quite as well.
Yeah.
So, I just try to explain how important he was, and I think if you use enough enthusiasm, people will get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always find it strange when somebody knows Stan Lee but doesn't know Jack Kirby.
Yeah. Because Stan Lee was very good at self-promoting.
Yeah.
Even if he was promoting things that other people did, not him.
Yeah.
And attach his name to it. I have no opinion. But
Mr. Stan Lee didn't do things like that.
No. But I went to the just before this book came out, we went to the American Library Association convention in Philadelphia this year. And one thing there, it's like I expected people wouldn't know who Will Eisner was, but librarians know who Will Eisner is. And librarians, one of their main concerns is sort of, their main concern is getting young people to read.
Yeah.
Graphic novels are great for that, so they love graphic novels. And they all know who Will Eisner is, and I think that's sort of the next step, is once they hook people into graphic novels, is sort of start to educate them about the history of the form. And
yeah,
I think there's hope.
There's hope. Keep Will Eisner's name.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll ever come a time when people just won't even have any idea about these guys? I think.
Well, I think there'll come a time when people don't have any idea about anything. But
true. Okay.
But, yeah, I think as long as the culture keeps some continuity, somebody will know.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll become more of a specialized bit of knowledge than general knowledge. But we did try to make his story fun and interesting and exciting, and especially in a way that it's about his youth. Really, it covers him from most of the book. He starts at like 10 years old, and he's just in his early 20s. Then we jump ahead to his 60s when he's doing Contract with God. So we tried to just to make it a fun story.
Excellent.
Yeah. I am a writer and artist. I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I've been doing this for 25 years, kind of like Will Eisner. I left and came back, not in my 60s, but in my 40s. And I did a graphic novel about 5 years ago called Lunatic, which may be findable, and one called Hannibal Hobb and Her Horrible Heads, which you can find on my website for sure. Dan Mazur Comics. DanMazurComics.com and Dan Mazur Comics on Instagram. That's the best way to find me. Or just ask around in Boston in a comic shop. They'll probably know me.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading a copy of it.
Thank you.
And we will see you hopefully again down here. And if
I
not,
hope so too.
We will definitely talk to you online and all that fun stuff.
I hope to be back. This is a fun shop, and I really want to spend some time looking around at all your cool stuff.